Hey, good morning. It's September 2nd today, and we're starting Ecclesiastes, actually taking a pretty big chunk out of Ecclesiastes today from chapters 1 through 3. And Ecclesiastes is one of those books that when you pick it up, you probably find something different every time. It's extremely complicated, as you probably well know, not easy to understand, and actually, I think that's a big part of the book's purpose and theme is to show that things in life are not easy to understand. It's clear that the writer of Ecclesiastes has thought deeply about life. I think it is Solomon who wrote this. I think that he's writing it at the end of his life, looking back on all that he's gone through and kind of summing up his life a little bit and trying to pass on a summation of wisdom for us too. And there are some really big ups and downs within this book. There's some things to be excited about and joyful about, and there's other things that could cause deep depression. In fact, we just had a couple of check interns here for for about 9 weeks, and one of them said that the very first book that he read when he picked up scripture was Ecclesiastes, and it's probably not a great place to start. It is, however, a place that many people do start. Universities use this often to study the literature of the Bible, and I'm sure there are people who've never read any piece of scripture before, but have then picked up Ecclesiastes and tried to understand what's going on there. It is a beautiful book. It's a complicated book, not simple by any means, and like I said, it impacts me differently every time that I come across it. Today, as I was reading it, something in particular stuck out to me. A couple of things that I wanted to talk about today, and that's in chapter 1, verse 13. The writer says, I applied my mind to study and to explore wisdom and all that is done under the heavens. What a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. He doesn't really elaborate what he means by that. I took it this morning to mean that it's a heavy burden that we have to try to apply our minds to explore wisdom and everything that is done under the heavens. And it's partly a heavy burden because we have some ability to do it, but we don't have ultimate ability to do it. Our abilities, our faculties, our minds, even the amount of evidence that we have fall short of being able to understand everything that God is doing. And so I think he's lamenting the fact that we have the ability to understand in part, and that whets our appetite. We want to study and understand in full, but we just plain don't have the capacity or all of the information we might need to do that. And so he's reflecting on a lifetime of looking into wisdom and everything that's done under the heavens and saying, even after a full lifetime, I'm not able to comprehend it all. And so that becomes a burden then to think you have the capacity and then to find that your capacity falls short. Talks about it a little bit later again in chapter 3, and I will probably not be able to find the verse again here at this moment, but um, well, let's go to the very last verse of this section, verse 22 of chapter 3. It says, So I saw that there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. For who can bring them to see what will happen after them? And something that he's talking about here is that our lifespans are finite. We don't have infinite time to understand what's going on around us. And so everything that we think and do will come to an end in this lifetime. Of course, God has promised eternity to us too, and maybe He will give us greater capacity in eternity to understand Him and to ponder those things that are His. But in the meantime, we have to learn to be content, and that's awfully difficult for creatures like us, curious creatures, malcontent in our hearts by every means. And so learning to be content with what we have just in terms of time is difficult for us. So some thoughts from Ecclesiastes fall short of what the author intends, but that's the point of it actually.